you know what you're talking about. You're very intelligent. You understand the game. It's going to be like actually executing on the knowledge that you have, not just in terms of mechanics, right? But actually like building these like pattern recognition. So here's a really interesting thing. So they actually worked. There was a study they did with chess players, like grandmaster chess players, like the best in the world, right? And they would show them board patterns from a real chess game and different stages of the development, and 4 or 5 board patterns, right? Like this is this, and this, and it asks them to repeat the board pattern afterwards, tell them exactly where each piece was. And grandmaster chess players were unbelievably good at that. You could quiz them 10, 15, 20 minutes later, and they'd remember it perfectly, right? Whereas the average person was horrible, okay? So why were the grandmaster chess players better?
They had a better frame of reference, essentially.
Right. It's a frame of reference. There's a structure of things to look for. There's like a skeleton in their brain of like habits that they build. Now, here's the interesting part is that when they mixed up pieces like randomly in a way that would never actually occur in an actual game, the grandmaster chess players were actually just as bad as the average person, if not worse, because it confused them. They weren't used to that. So for you, it's about building patterns. It's not about getting smarter. It's about building patterns of things that you do automatically. So it's like when I pop Nemesis for him, I'm immediately looking, or I already know where my targets are. I don't even have to think about it. But how do we get to that point? How did the grandmaster chess players get to the point where they can memorize those patterns? Chunking, right?
They played games and they did puzzles, and
they thought about it over and over and over and over again. So they memorize these movement patterns. It's the same reason, like when we're doing like these complicated gymnastic routines. How do they do all those things at the same time? They've broken it down to each individual component and build it up to where then they say, body, do a backflip. They don't have to think throwing the arms up, tucking the legs, or anything like that. It's an automatic programmed action. That's how
it's habit.
Right.
It's habit.
And so you need to build habits with your cooldowns by focusing on them and slowing it down until you no longer have to think about them anymore. And then when you go back, you go, oh shoot, they're getting bad again. I need to put a little bit more focus on them. Then you upgrade that a little bit. That's how learning works. It's by building patterns, because the human brain isn't very good at consciously thinking about a lot of things. It's only very good at thinking about consciously thinking about like one thing at a time, but it's extremely good at unconsciously thinking about it. For example, how often have you fidgeted, shifted, scratched yourself, moved your arms, breathed, shifted your shoulders back, kept your posture up? All these things are happening automatically during this review. You weren't even thinking about it, right? But that's your brain working in the background. And we want more things to be working in the background.